Welcome to Creatively Using the Creative Suite. Here's your host, Erik Burnskill. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Creatively Using the Creative Suite podcast. My name is Erik Burnskill, and this week I'd like to show you some JustDoIt features that are now added into Photoshop CS5. Now, what are these JustDoIt features? Well, it's actually very simple. When the Adobe team or the Photoshop team that develops Photoshop is working on a new version, they have a few days every now and then that are called JDI days. Now, JDI stands for Just Do It. On these days, they just get down and do the features that we like to see. For example, these small enhancements that are not just big poster features. So inside of Photoshop CS5, there are not just only these big, tremendous features, but they're just these small, tiny fixes that makes your daily Photoshop life go much faster. To show you a few of these, I'm going to do today, and I'm going to start with default layer styles. This is something that's been requested for ages, and in Photoshop CS4, the default stroke color changed from the unbelievable red to black, but now they've taken it a step further, allowing you to set your own default value for any layer style. So if I right click on a text layer here that I'm going to enable, I'm just going to go into blending options, and let's try stroke here. So by default it's got to say a 5 or 3 pixel stroke black, but if I go ahead and say I want the default stroke here to be, let's say 10 pixels. All I need to do, or actually let's make that 15 and drop the opacity. That's what I want my default stroke to be. So if I now click make default here and go out, let's even clear the style by just dragging the style to the trash. And then if I go into this again, go down to stroke, I now get instantly the same layer style that I had before that I clicked make default. This is a big time saver inside of CS5. Let's go ahead and apply that, not hit cancel. It's very simple because it's sticky, it's a default setting. Now let's move on. By default, when you've always duplicated layers, say by just dragging this layer 0 to the new layer icon, it's been named layer 0 copy. And whether you rename your layers or not, you'll probably have been a bit irritated at this behavior. Well, either you have been irritated by it or you haven't really worried about it. If you're in the former category like me, you've been slightly irritated that I get every copy layer named layer 0 copy, copy 1, copy 2, you'll be pleased to know that if you go to the little flyout menu here for the layers panel, you can get out of panel options. In the layers panel options, what you can do at the far bottom is select add copy to copied layers and groups. And if this is checked, each time you copy a new layer, it's going to add that copy to it. So if you uncheck this and click OK, when you copy a new layer now, say I copy layer 0, it's going to be named the same layer 0 name as the original was. So this is very cool and can really save some time when you're naming layers. Okay, so let's throw away the copies here because we don't need them. Let's press on. If you're a photographer, you'll really appreciate this new feature. And this has to do with straightening photos. To straighten photos, you've always been able to go in and do that, but it's taken some time. Now, if you select under the eyedropper, you select the ruler tool, and you drag out, say, along this very tilted horizon here. Actually, we can do better than that. Let's drag this one out, again, along the horizon line. And then up in the toolbar, we have an option to click straighten. So if I click straighten now, it's going to automatically crop and straighten down to what I said was a tilted horizon. So we get a much nicer look, and it's only taken a fraction of the time that it took us before. So now we have straightening, and we can do that simply. Or gestures on the trackpad to, for example, rotate the images. This could be a big pain when working with some documents on the trackpad, in that you will accidentally rotate the image all the time. In Photoshop CS5, they've added support to turn this off right from within the application without needing to download an extra plugin. So if you go to Photoshop menu, go down to Preferences. On the PC, this would be on the Edit menu, down to Preferences. And then in the General Preferences, if you go to Interface, you'll see Enable Gestures. And if you turn this one off and click OK, you won't need to be bothered by these extra gestures if you're working on a laptop with a trackpad that supports these multiple mouse gestures. Now for a final bit, if I wanted to, I have 3 documents open here, all used in different tutorials on the Burn Skilled Learning website. If I want to close all of these or save all of these, by default in earlier versions of Photoshop, if I go to the File menu and come down, say to Close All here, I'd be needing to either save all or don't save all for each one of these images. So for this one, click Don't Save, next one Don't Save, next one Don't Save, for example. Now they've added an Apply to All checkbox right in here. So if I click Apply to All and then Don't Save here, which you can, by the way, do by clicking the D key, it's going to close all of these and then let me get on with it. So these are just some of my favorite JustDoIt features inside of Photoshop CS5, proving that this release is just so much more than these big features. There's also a lot of features for the enhancement bit that makes Photoshop tick for us who use it daily. That's it for this week's episode of the Creatively Using the Creative Suite podcast. My name is Erik Burnskilled, and I'll see you back next week. Bye-bye.